very brief. Introduce Ricky Hall, who I don't know that you all have had at least the public opportunity to meet. Ricky is here today to present to you the results of our 2021 Citizen Satisfaction Survey. We haven't done this in a couple of years. Like every presentation you have seen in a long time, interrupted by COVID, but we've got the results in. I think the overall bottom line is very, very positive. So I'm going to turn it over to Ricky, and he's going to walk you through some of the highlights. Just want to add that this presentation, along with the full report and a cover letter explaining some of the items, will be posted on the county's website this week for citizens to look at. It's a very rich data set, lots of information and lots of trends. We're only really going to scratch the surface with kind of those key findings, but we do want to make the whole report available to everyone. So I'm going to turn it over to Ricky, and I'll come back at the end with a little wrap up. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Holland, members of the board, Dr. Casey. As Matt stated, I'm Ricky Hall with the Learning and Performance Center, and I'm pleased to present our results for this year's Citizen Satisfaction Survey. So to provide a bit of an overview, the county has historically valued the perspectives and the impressions of our citizens, and we've used their feedback to enhance our service delivery. To support these efforts, every 2 to 3 years, we partner with POCO and the National Research Center to assess the livability of the county. And POCO describes livability as not only where people live, but also where people want to live. Our survey was administered from April to June of this year, and to complete the initiative, we surveyed 2,700 households who were randomly selected throughout the district in even proportions. And as a result of our random selection efforts, what we found is that the majority of our respondents have identified themselves as female owners over the age of 35. Our prior survey efforts in 2016 connected with citizens exclusively through postage, and yet this survey effort, we utilized both postage and electronic strategies to capture that feedback. That shift in strategy, though, is due to a merger between NRC and POCO. The results reflected that you'll see here throughout the presentation, and we have confirmed them for statistical validity, and yet it is also to be noted that the results you see have been impacted likely by some of COVID as well, so please keep that in mind. It's also noted that our survey was conducted post-COVID, so the results that you see throughout the report that you've received was also benchmarked against pre-pandemic feedback dating back to 2016. An overview of the citizens' level of satisfaction with the county's livability really can be summarized in 2 words, and I like to think of it as positive and encouraging. Our data does reflect that majority of the citizens, they view the county as a desirable place to live, learn, work, and play. So over 90% of respondents, they view the county as a desirable place to live and raise children. These ratings were then followed by 94% of citizens voicing that they feel our public schools prepare students for success beyond high school. We've also experienced an increase in satisfaction from our 2016 survey as it relates to the county being a desirable place to not only work, but retire as well. So additionally, over 88% of citizens intend to remain in the county for the next 5 years, and they've also voiced that they'd recommend the county as a desirable place to live to others also. It's to be noted that the items that have contributed to the overall quality of life score of 87 to now 89%, those align with the county's strategic plan. So to assess the overall livability of the county, POCO has categorized the aggregated data into 4 overarching things that you see here. They summarize economy as the availability of employment and shopping opportunities, land use, and the county's overall economic health. Public safety and inclusivity summarizes the overall safety of the county in both residential and commercial areas. The citizens' experience with services such as emergency, medical, and fire. Also, the overall feeling of welcomeness and a sense of community. natural environment services and recreational activities that highlights the availability of our parks, trails, and recreational activities, and the overall quality of the county's natural environment. While education, cultural, and arts-related opportunities, that more so focuses on the overall quality of K through 12 education, the ability of adult education, and the opportunity to attend cultural and art-related activities as well. So when we ask citizens to rate the items that the county should focus on within the next 2 years, what was identified was overall economic health. This was listed as the highest citizen priority at 93%. This was an increase from the 91% score that we received on the 2016 survey. So as we focus on items relating to employment and shopping opportunities, land use, the county's overall economic health, what we've gathered is that the citizens' level of satisfaction with the overall quality of business and service establishments has certainly increased from 68 to 79%. Land use, planning, zoning has experienced a decrease in satisfaction from 47 to 32%, while opportunities for employment remain consistent at 56%. As this theme here focuses on the feeling of safety, our citizens' experience with services such as emergency medical and fire, the overall feeling of welcomeness and sense of community, what our data did inform is that the majority of our citizens do indeed feel safe in both residential and commercial areas. They remain satisfied with our fire services, and the feeling of a sense of community has increased from 59% to 65% over the past few years also. And now progressing to the natural environment services and recreational amenities, I'm highlighting the availability of our parks, trails, recreational activities, and the overall quality of the county's natural environment. The data did reflect that over 70% of citizens were satisfied with the overall quality of our natural environment, along with the quality of our parks and recreational opportunities as well. The availability of paths and walking trails also seen an increase from the previous survey that was completed in 2016 also. This final survey theme focuses on the overall quality of our K through 12 education, availability of adult education, and the opportunity to attend cultural and arts-related activities. Consistent with the previous citizen survey, 81% of citizens did indeed voice that this category should remain a top priority for the county's focus going forward. So the feedback data reflects that 76% of our citizens are still satisfied with the quality of K through 12 education despite the impacts of the pandemic. Additionally, 59% of citizens were satisfied with the opportunities for adult education, which were also impacted by the pandemic. And lastly, 38% of citizens were also satisfied with their opportunities to attend cultural, arts, and music-related activities, which we also believe were impacted as well. So these thematic categories that we just reviewed, they were further supported by the survey question that we asked citizens to rate the level of importance for items that the county should focus on within the next 2 years. And of that selection, the top 5 rated items were as follows: the economic health, the feeling of safety, the design or layout of residential and commercial areas, the quality of natural environment spaces, and the opportunity to attend educational, cultural, and arts-related activities. And to conclude the survey instrument, POCO did provide us an opportunity to create a limited number of custom questions. So we took that opportunity to gain insight into items that involve citizen engagement, their primary reason for living in Chesterfield County, and to help inform future employment strategies. And what we identified is that when citizens were asked to rate their primary source for obtaining information about events that take place in the county, of that provided list, what we found is that local television, our county website, and departmental specific websites were considered a major source more frequently than others. We also asked citizens questions about their primary reason for living in the county. The cost of housing was identified as the primary reason, while the proximity to family and friends was a close second, followed by the quality of our schools. And then lastly, we asked citizens if they were working from the home prior to the pandemic. Majority of them answered that they were not working from their home at 64%, but we then asked if they plan to continue to work from home after the pandemic, and that feedback identified that 84% plan to continue either working exclusively from home or in some form of a hybrid situation. That concludes my overview of the Citizen Satisfaction Survey, and now I'll turn it back over to Matt Harris, who will share on the works in progress based on the results.
Thank you very much. Present.
Thank you.
So just one last slide on this topic, and I think probably the most important slide in here is, like any consultant report or survey or study, it's only as good as what you do with it and how you process the information. So a lot of effort and energy is being invested into the topics that Ricky just walked you through. But we just took Dr. Casey's annual priority letter and said, how do we line up with what we've heard from the citizens? Because the citizen satisfaction survey is something we've done routinely over time, and it provides us kind of a consistent way to communicate with folks, but it's not our only method. We hear from folks through meetings like this and emails and phone calls and all those types of things, and we try to invest our energy and resources accordingly. So just comb through the letter and sort of these are the ones that stuck out to me. You got 13 priorities in Dr. Casey's letter that was drafted back in June that really focus on the 3 items in Ricky's part that showed areas or scores that were a little bit lower than we'd like to see, sort of that planning and land use item, the availability of walkable trails and those types of facilities, as well as the cultural opportunities. And COVID has various impacts on 3 of these, but you already have 13 priorities that had been identified, that have been assigned, and we're working on right now. And I won't read them all to you, but I think the point is, there's good alignment on how we are identifying, what we need to focus on, and where the citizens would also agree that that's where we need to be investing those resources. Other things that we'll be doing, because I think some of these items, it's just it's more of a marketing effort. I think it's been touched on here today with the availability of parks. Mr. Carroll, I know you've passed along anecdotes routinely of folks not even being aware of park facilities that are close to where they live and they're driving further away. So y'all's video series certainly helps with that. But there's other examples where we can sit down and be very strategic in the way we're pushing out information. A lot of our new things, the blog, a lot of the video things that are going on, the podcast, and use those tools to highlight things that we're already doing. So it's not all of these items are where we have to start from scratch. Some of it is we're not doing as good a job as we could telling our own story in that respect. So I think this information, part of the survey, will help us quite a bit with that as well. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, and I doubt Ricky ran very far. He's
Thank you,
around
Mr.
too.
Harris. Any questions or comments?
Just say one thing, Mr. Chairman, that is that the data on the number of people not planning to return to the workplace, if that number is anywhere near reality, then we've got a commercial real estate situation on our hands nationally, not just Chesterfield County, but certainly a regional topic and a national topic. Just anecdotally, in my household, I think Kim's company is sort of wringing their hands, and I think they would like to bring people back, but there's hesitation, and so I think maybe that number comes down, but that's the one that really struck me as something that could impact us for years and years to come, and present some challenges.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just to add on to that, Mr. Winslow, I can tell you as the representative sitting on the Greater Richmond Partnership Board and talking about economic development, it's a very top-line conversation related to commercial business space, what that looks like in the future, how to attract to fill what we have, how to plan for the future. and having very relevant conversations with our current chamber members throughout all of the jurisdictions about what those anticipations are. But I can tell you, from the conversations we've had, those numbers are pretty realistic based on what we're hearing. They're pretty spot on. That return to work, even when it does happen, will not likely be a 5-day-a-week, but something more of a hybrid model. And so I think they're all trying to figure out, especially your major, larger employers, what that means in workspace needs. And so I think we just need to keep our eye on the ball. And I think that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Holland, if I could interject as
Yes.
well. And again, this is a nationwide issue. I will say Chesterfield County had a net migration of people commuting out of about 30,000 people as a differential. Many of those people are now staying closer to home. Some of the companies are figuring out ways in which, if that employee enjoys that environment closer to their home, then we may benefit of having, workspaces, shared spaces to gather. And Midlothian has opened up, in essence, a commercial square footage place during a pandemic. We're paying attention in our libraries of people who don't want to necessarily work out of their home but need some environment. And, working with some of our companies that have office space so that while maybe half their workforce comes in, how can they maintain the same footprint to accommodate, and make it more spatial and appropriate for those that are returning to work. So I think because of our diversity of jobs and not necessarily the heavy reliance on massive commercial square footages of a traditional nature some of these bigger cities have, even the city of Richmond and some other places in the area, we actually are positioned better for it. But having said that, as Ms. Haley referenced, we have to pay attention to it. The last variable that is occurring, and it's really hard to get our hands on, is there are many people who are moving here from places that they are teleworking, but they also may look for sort of shared small office space opportunities because they don't necessarily want to work out of their home every day. But and that's another market that again, through GRP and other means, we are trying to figure out.